We'd like to give a special thank you to Pure Project for hosting the Society of Barley Engineers. Thank you.
So I got assigned this job to do a presentation on, or get someone to do a presentation on brewing with chocolate. And I reached out to a pro brewer that was recommended to reach out to, and I never got a response. I know that's shocking, probably to all. So I scrambled and figured out that I now need to do a presentation on brewing with chocolate. And you guys know how much I hate doing presentations. So I started doing research on the internet, and they have everything on there, by the way. It's incredible. You guys should try it sometime. It's amazing. So I did some research on it, and I got to this website. I guess, hang on, I should go through some of this. So we're going to talk about brewing with chocolate. I know the suspense is killing you all. Let's see, how do I... So these are all the topics that we're going to cover quickly. And I've got a gentleman on Zoom right now who is a chocolate alchemist. And I'm going to have him introduce himself. And I found him. There he is, John. Hey, nice to meet you.
Folks.
In face. John has a website called The Chocolate Alchemist. And as I was plagiarizing his website, shamelessly, it dawned on me. First I looked up to see where he's at. So fortunately, he's in the West Coast, Eugene, Oregon. And I thought, I'm going to be super bold and ask him last week, hey, we got this club and we're doing a presentation on brewing with chocolate. Would you like to do it with me? And it took me about 2 emails, and he said, let's do it. John, can I let you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So for a correction, my company is Chocolate Alchemy, not Chocolate Alchemist. So minor point, but
sorry,
there it is. It's fine. My name is John Nanci. Let's see. So I've been running Chocolate Alchemy running on 20 years now. Before that, I was chemist, so I'm a retired chemist now. And prior to that, in my spare time, I brew. So I am absolutely no stranger at all to the brewing community. So as far as introductions go, that's fine. As Jacques said, he found me and my article on brewing with chocolate. And being a scientist, you never retire from being a scientist. A couple of years ago, I started getting an influx of emails about people wanting to know how to add chocolate flavor to their beers. And I did some cursory experiments and found they weren't to my liking. And I started designing an experiment to determine what actually would give chocolate flavor to beers. And by winnowing it down to a mere 22 beers, I set up my first experiment. And I'll leave you with that introduction, and we'll get into what I discovered from that experiment.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Guys,
hey, Jacques.
Go.
Somehow, I've lost the video of the deck. I'm seeing only myself. Can you help me out?
You want the presentation?
Yeah, so John, as soon as we switch away from you, you'll see it again.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So I spent a good couple hours today gathering up beers to serve, and so what you're getting now is the what is it? The Zephyr? Velvet Zephyr from Pure Project. I'd wanted to serve this later, but because of the time constraints, I need you guys to share these tasters around, please, with the rest of the folks at your table. We were trying to figure out how to pour this much expensive beer to everybody and make sure everybody gets a little taste. If you haven't tasted already, and I'm sure probably many of you who have been here have tasted it before and know. And please make sure that I get a taste of it again. Velvet Zephyr. Velvet Zephyr. So, chocolate and beer can come in a number of forms, right? So you guys can get chocolate. There's actually some regular lagers that are made with chocolate, obviously ales and stouts, etc. Thank you, Andy. And from a materials perspective, it can be any type of chocolate or cocoa. And John, if you want to correct any of this, please make sure, because this is an older version. So traditionally, though, go ahead.
I was going to say, from the practical, from one thing we found is that chocolate itself doesn't work well. It's a mismatch of the matrix. That chocolate's so much oil-based, and it just doesn't play well with beer and the head retention. So cocoa is the way to go. But let's continue on.
Yeah, so chocolate is traditionally added to porters, stouts, brown ales, dark beers, etc., which, kind of a hot day is a little weird to be drinking all these high alcohol, dark monster beers, but they're delicious no matter what. And often what I learned, because I didn't realize, a lot of times the chocolate taste in beer isn't actually from chocolate, right? We heard earlier, and I thought this was going to be a big spoiler, but it is to me, but a lot of chocolate malt is used to derive that chocolate flavor. And when I talked to John earlier today, he told me that it's actually easier and better to derive those chocolatey flavors from malt than it is from actually using chocolate. So when did this start? And some of you guys may have remembered a presentation that Alvin did back at an Italian restaurant in Vista 10 years ago, when the subject was this beer called chicha, which was made by the Indians in Honduras around the 1150 or so BC. So while we think that, oh man, this beer is super cool, it was super cool 3,000 years ago, apparently, in Honduras. So they would take the pulp of the cocoa plants, chew that pulp, and use that to derive the malt to make the fermentations. They found this out by investigating, and they found some shards of pottery while doing a dig there that had traces of the theobromine, which is the technical name of the cocoa plant. It's actually not that, but it's something like that. Anyway, so that's when it actually all started, way back then. So we're going to share the Velvet Zephyr first. I don't have the recipe that they provided for, that they do, but we know it's got cocoa nibs and cacao rather, etc. So we're going to save this Founders. We'll come back to that one later. So John, what we've got, I don't know if you can see now, but what gives the beers their chocolatey flavor and consistency? So this is a piece, I stole this directly from your article on the web, and I'll provide anybody that wants the access to the web, or you can just AI it like I did initially and found them. John, you want to talk to this at all?
I do.
Go.
And I'm gonna take a step back, just because anybody who's offended by coarse language should cover their ears. So I'm gonna give you the countdown. So if you're offended, cover your ears, because I'm an absolute pedantic fuck. I can't help it. I'm a scientist, and so I like a little bit of clarity here. And I'm opinionated. I've been brewing 30 years. I'm curmudgeonly, and I'm approaching 60. So there we go.
A kid.
No apologies. It's the way I am. So something you said, Jacques, is I want to clarify cacao versus cocoa. And keeping in mind pedantic, if you're an English speaker, it's cocoa. If you speak Spanish or a couple other languages, it's cacao. After that, it makes no damn difference. So let's get that out of the way, okay?
I'll never say cacao again.
You can, but only if you speak Spanish.
Not very well.
A conversation about which means whether it's in the raw form or roasted form. And at the end of the day, after doing this for 20 years, it's a language difference. So you're English, say cocoa. It's fine.
Cocoa it is.
Okay. So I'm happy to talk to each one of these. A lot of people want to simply throw in an adjunct amount of cocoa nibs into their beer and call it a cocoa beer or a chocolate beer. And they're welcome to call it whatever they want. But as you've already insinuated, some of these beers that are called chocolate beers don't even contain cocoa in any form. And it's something that proved out with our testing. I mentioned we did a flight of 22 beers. It was a huge tasting, and people were flagging by the end. It's a lot of beer to drink in one session. I'm going to actually back up a moment and mention the conversation I had with Jacques. This PowerPoint is not completely consistent, and it's not completely accurate, and that's totally okay. And I'm going to work with Jacques and get it more consistent to some of the things I'm going to say. So for you folks to have later, because I'm very, I like you to have the right information. So we're going to run with this. So just for definition, I'm going to run down these really fast. Cocoa nibs are nothing more than the interior of the cocoa bean. You have a bean, and you strip off the shell during the winnowing process, and you get a cocoa nib. Nothing more complicated than that. We're going to get a lot into it, but that is a nice way to use nibs or cocoa to get some flavor into your beer. Great way. Cocoa nibs, roasted always. Good way. Moving on, and I'll repeat a lot of stuff, and I'm going to probably, as I just said, repeat stuff as it comes up on the slides here. It says cocoa nibs again, but what it's referring to is grinding them up, like in a blender or something. Very short answer is I don't recommend it. It can give you issues with over extraction. And as brewers, again, I've been brewing for 30 years. Over extraction is the thing. You get more flavor, but they're not necessarily good flavors. Brewer's cocoa, I would be more inclined to call that brewing cocoa. It's kind of a new fad of a water extracted full bean ground tea. And I know that's may not paint a picture for you, but it's what it says. It's ground roasted cocoa beans, husk, and bean it all. It's okay. I don't find a lot of benefit from it versus cocoa nibs. We're sort of going down here definitions. Cocoa powder, very high processed item. It has been pressed to get rid of some of the oil, which is good for us. Spoiler, when you add it to most beers, it causes nucleation sites that can give you freaking gushers. Again, not recommended. Chocolate. If you don't know what chocolate is, you should leave now. The oils can give you some issues. Extracts, as it just says, I'm reading off of it, oils, alcohols, and water-based. We'll get into that some more. I'm just going to give you a preview that the alcohol actually has some really promising results that I really like. It has some financial issues, but damn, it has some good promising flavor results. And then what he said, the chocolate malts, whether they're traditional or pale, they're named that for a reason. They can really give some good chocolate flavors that are they're a coincidence. They give us the impression of chocolate. And I'm going to throw this out before we go to the next slide. To all of you, if you don't know, there is no one chemical that is responsible for chocolate flavor. It's this melange of like 20 chemicals that our brain interprets as chocolate. There are such individual identified compounds such as cabbage, stewed cabbage, and sweat, and apple and turnip, and you think these are bizarre, but the point is there's no one chemical, and so something about the chocolate malts gives us a number of those that, when combined with the malts, gives us a chocolate flavor. So I find that really cool from a chemistry standpoint. Back to you, Jacques. If you want to move on or ask questions.
Any questions so far, or do you guys want us to keep moving on and save your questions till the end? Let's do that. Okay. So the slide, back to when and how do I add these choco things? I'm going to work with my pouring group to help pour the next beer. So while John, you're talking, we're gonna get more beer.
Okay. Can you? I think maybe progress me to the next slide. I'm not sure it'll help, but we'll try.
Next slide, Jacques. Oh, you got it. Yeah, I'm having a hard time understanding. So this was that. We're not going to do that beer, so we're going to go to that one. Which one?
Okay. Well, these are actually worth talking about. This is going to be a very fire hose kind of presentation. And I think that's fine for a little 45 minute presentation. There's a note here, chocolate extracts, that they don't play well with water when oil-based, and they can be expensive. You may or may not be tasting a beer at the end here or somewhere in it that I believe is Samuel Smith's chocolate stout. To my tastes, it tastes very much of a fake chocolate flavor. I've tasted it. I wanted to love it, and it has an off flavor.
Don't do that.
So I don't know what they're adding, but I've experienced it when we experimented with oil extracts or different kinds of off-the-shelf extracts. It didn't play well. So much like the all-grain brewers, I'm very much for going from the basic ingredient and getting what you can get. As for when to add stuff, what we ended up finding was cocoa nibs have a place. It is what, if you go find the research, like as again what Jacques said, go look up the internet, and people add cocoa nibs. And what we ended up finding in our tasting group of these, 22 odd beers that we brewed, was that traditional cocoa nibs that you can either get off Amazon or even get off Chocolate Alchemy, when added to a beer in many places, not all, but many. So when you add them to the mash or you add them to the boil, because cocoa is so oil-based, and as a brewer, we're working in the aqueous space, that many of the flavors simply do not come out. It's pure physics. There's a favorite t-shirt I own that says, "Everything happens for a reason, usually physics." And this is one of those cases. So many of the compounds, of those 20 compounds that are responsible for the cocoa flavor and aroma, are polar based. They're non-aqueous based, and I think I might have just reversed that. They're non-polar based. They're hydrocarbon based. They're oil based. Um, and so when you try to add them in the boil or the mash, all you have acting on them is water, and you get only this small proportion of their compounds, and the result is not very chocolatey. So you can do nibs, but what we found in our testing was a higher degree of roast for the nibs. Really helps accentuate that chocolate flavor. And that kind of comports with the chocolate malts, which are basically crystal malts that have been kilned to a higher temperature. So there's something about that higher kilning, be it crystal malt or a nib that's been roasted higher, that lends our brains to the impression that they're tasting chocolate. And that's what so much of this is what our brain interprets as chocolate. So nibs work fine. Talking about what's on screen here, chocolate extracts and slurries, cholaka. We found, so cholaka is this slurried nib solution that has been being promoted to breweries. It's kind of hard for the home brewers to get, which I'm here to tell you, don't bother, frankly. It just didn't in a blind tasting show out well. It was easy to add. People love simplicity, and it didn't give much. So I will come back at the end, I hope, if we have time, to the chocolate extracts, talking about oil-based and water-based. And what I actually want to bring up is ethanol-based. We found works really, really well, and on the small scale, from a financial standpoint, can work. I know I'm bouncing around a little bit, but hopefully it'll give you something to work with. Jacques, can we have the next slide?
No, bouncing is good. So just before I kind of jacked up the ordering of the beers because of the initial thing. So what
No
you guys
problem.
have now is the Brooklyn Brewery Black Chocolate Stout. And that's what you're tasting now. And as you can notice, there's no cocoa. I said it
none
right.
in there at all.
There's no
Right.
cocoa at all in this beer. This one's all chocolate malt, black
Which
barley.
is really important. Yeah, absolutely.
So I want you to kind of keep this one in mind, because when we go to the next one, which is going to be, I think the Smiths, that's the one that John felt had a little bit of an extract flavor to it. So bear that in mind when we go to the next beer. Okay. Let's see. John, here we go. Can you see the slide?
I can. I think this one is a good one to discuss. And I've experienced this, and when I was doing some notes for myself, I wanted to add on to this vanilla. So the bit here is our brains are really amazing and interesting organs. We make associations from taste and flavor and try to categorize it into what we understand. So I've seen this a lot. One of my favorite local beers in Eugene, Oregon is Rhino Suit. It's an imperial stout. They literally just picked up 100 pounds of nibs from us today to put into their secondary to make their senior Rhino Suit mocha chocolate stout. And to that end, I don't think they add oats, but they absolutely add lactose. And it calls back to I feel like our childhood memories of milk chocolate. So you add lactose and you get just this memory and this impression of milk chocolate. And so it helps evoke more chocolate flavor in what you're tasting. Oats, same thing. They've got a creaminess, or they can. I'm going to go ahead and sideline here. I mentioned I've been brewing many years, and I love diving down rabbit holes. And there's a website, and I think it's Beer Experimenter. I don't have it in front of me. My apologies. Who takes on many of these preconceptions about whether various adjuncts add certain things. And the reason I'm bringing this up is he does oats for one point, and he evaluates body and head retention and mouthfeel. And the thing he found, which I wondered about, was he actually found in a blind tasting, oats didn't add many of these things. It's very much the party line that they add a lot of these things. So take it with a grain of salt. If the placebo effects helps you think that there's chocolate in there, go for it. The placebo effect is absolutely real. I'm not sure it is, or I'm not sure oats add to it, but you do you. Everybody has their own experience. To that end, what I'm going to add to that is vanilla. So many of us grew up with chocolate that had a not insignificant amount of vanilla in the profile. And so you taste vanilla. If it has a hint of chocolate, you're like, oh, that's chocolate. So if you're trying to evoke that feeling, I would actually say lactose, vanilla might get you a long way. It's kind of hacking the brain. It's real. We think of it, and that's all that matters, what our experience is. And so, and I'll say the same thing. If oats evoke something for you and you like it, I'm not here to tell you you're wrong. You know, you have your own experience. So, but over 20 years, I've been disappointed in oats, is what I'll say. And this isn't an oat adjunct conversation. So lactose and vanilla, go for that there.
Very cool.
There we go. Next.
Hey, can my pouring team cue up the stands, the Smith, please, and pour the Smith's beers around for us? I think we're ready for those. So this is it.
This is it. Yep.
So it's
you know, I've noticed this, that they say they have organic cocoa, and I've always wondered what level of cocoa they have in it. And I've never been able to tease that out, but I've always wondered. And as a good scientist, I've always been willing to absolutely accept the literature, if I could find it, that they added chocolate or nibs or something. But I've never been able to tease out what they actually add.
Yeah, I looked to try to find ingredients for a little while, and I realized I was wasting a lot of time.
Me too.
Everything pointed to these same 4 ingredients. As you can see, too, this is a particularly low ABV one, and pretty readily available.
Yeah. I'm going to jump ahead and actually use this as a springboard. And I'll answer this screen in a moment.
Okay.
Something we absolutely learned in all of our testing is, again, it's due to the scientific nature of what extracts the flavors you need. Are they organic? Are they aqueous? Are they a combination? And over and over and over, what we found was it took often beers over 10% with a sufficient ethanol content to work on those compounds that gave us the impression of chocolate. A part of those 22 tests we did were a large imperial stout and a brown ale that was sitting at 5 or 6%. Same exact dosings of all of the nibs and cocoa powders and chocolate and ethanol extractions, and over and over and over, keeping in mind all of this was blind. What we found was The 5% simply didn't evoke chocolate. And the Imperial Stout did. And whether that was due to alcohol or crystal malts or heavier body, it's simply what we observed. So in that Samuel Smith here is at 5%, I am skeptical from scientific evidence that they had cocoa nibs in it. They said cocoa, and just like you found, Jacques, they said cocoa. Is that cocoa powder? Is that cocoa nibs? Is that a cocoa extract? We don't know. And they've been around way earlier than the bean to bar movement and when nibs were available. So who knows? I take Samuel Smith Organic Chocolate Stout as well, that's interesting, and I don't know how to reproduce it, and so I just put it off in the corner.
So what do you guys? So I'm going to ask you guys two questions. One is, how many of you have brewed with chocolate in some form before? Holy cow! About 2/3 of the group, John. In case you can't see.
I just saw it. It popped up. That was lovely.
And let's talk about the Samuel Smith now. What do you guys think of it? Like it? Almost universal. Extract flavors, do you kind of get that sense of, yeah, it's kind of not the same as the Zephyr or the Brooklyn that we had before. What do you think?
It's like drinking a Tootsie Roll.
Yeah. And
yes.
So
Beautiful.
That is a really good one. We also heard that tastes a lot like vanilla. Now that you put vanilla into our heads, so now it's like, oh yeah, of course that's vanilla.
Yep.
Hot chocolate.
That funny?
Anything else? Anybody else have any comment about it? Like, you just.
There's some residual sweetness. Yeah, so I get some residual sweetness and I get vanilla in here, and that's sort of on a 5% beer kind of, brings it out, and I think you get more chocolate flavor because of that.
It's like a cream ale. Yeah, kind of a cream ale for me, a little bit, like a little chocolatey component, right? It's that evocative of the mouthfeel and that kind of stuff, but maybe not so chocolatey necessarily.
Absolutely. So here, I'm going to actually, if we could have the time, I'm looking, we're 8 o'clock now. If you don't mind, Jacques, I'm going to spool off with, I hope, no more than a 2 or 3 minutes.
Riff on, John. Go for it.
Okay. So this is to put nobody down. I know nobody I'm talking to right now. It's observations I've made over both giving many chocolates to people during teaching them how to make chocolate. So by the way, Chocolate Alchemy is all about teaching people how to make chocolate at home. So that's what I'm about. And to that end, when I do a seminar, I virtually always give a tasting and have everybody taste through 3 chocolates. And I ask them, please tell me what your favorite is. Tell me what your least favorite is. And give me a token reason why you believe that or why you think that. Just defend it a little bit. And at the end of the round robin, we have a very usually clear winner. It's either, B or C, and usually one that people dislike, and it's, whatever. It's number 1, doesn't matter. And the reveal at the end of it is that I tell them what they've tasted over these 3 chocolates is the same chocolate. And it blows people away how much their assumption that they were different chocolates changes their reaction to each one of them. And I'm going to couple this with at one point, probably 20 years ago, I was a BCPA judge, and I brought it. We were having a stout tasting at one of the clubs, not unlike yours, and I brought in a beer to evaluate. It was for a dry stout, and we ran it through, and everybody tasted it, and what I brought in ranked one of the lowest scores. And what everybody hated me for doing was I'd relabeled a Guinness Stout. And they just castigated it. And, to all of my understanding, Guinness is the hallmark for, it's the poster child for an Irish dry stout. And it's amazing what your inherent bias can give you for evaluating something. And it's something I've had to contend with for years, tasting chocolate. And so I love that some of you came up with, after me saying vanilla about the Samuel Smith beer, that you were like, oh, I taste vanilla. And all I'm saying is tasting is really difficult, and just having chocolate on the label can predispose you to going, yep, I taste chocolate. Yep, totally true. And adding a little bit of nibs to your beer can be like, yep, I taste chocolate. And how difficult it is. And it's not to castigate anybody or make them feel bad. I'm just saying it's really hard to taste. And so at the end of the day, be honest with yourself as much as you're able to. And I guess what I'm trying to say here is a lot of what you read on the internet may not be accurate. And so what the reason I was excited by Jacques' invitation was I hope to peel back some of the layers of what we expect and what we don't expect when we taste beers. Jacques, I feel like I might have gone off topic there, but it's a little bit about give yourself some grace when tasting, and be as honest as you can, and go from there. And I think I've run out of that thread, so let's continue on.
No, I think, John, you brought up a really good point about how your brain influences what you think you're tasting. I know that some of you are probably incredible super tasters, and you could look at what that means is that people who can discern flavors and taste more than others. And even between men and women, there's different rating of, like, 1 in 4 women are super tasters, 1 in 8 men are super tasters. And our brain plays tricks. Yeah, no, that's the truth. Our brain tricks us, because I do this with wine, as you guys, many of you know. I'm more of a wine guy than a beer guy, or at least I'm more knowledgeable about wine than I am about beer. That's why I have to do these presentations, so I can learn something.
Truth.
But you can convince somebody that there's a banana flavor in a wine that absolutely has nothing to do with it if you influence it in the right way. It's same thing like with Saison. The first time I drank a Saison, they said, oh, do you get the banana flavor? It's like, ew, that sounds disgusting. And then I tasted it again. It's like, oh, yeah, I totally get it.
Yep.
So our brain does that, right? Lactose, I think, is one of those things. And you talked about our early recollection of tasting a Hershey's milk chocolate bar as a kid, and you get that fake chemical flavory thing that we taste now that is like, it's gross. But when you compare it to like really good quality chocolate, you say, oh man, how did I like that? Well, I liked it because I was 7, and that's what they gave me when I went trick-or-treating, and that's what we knew was chocolate as we were growing up. So I think your point, John, is extremely well made. Anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this one.
Go.
And I hope it's no more than a minute. With this knowledge comes power, and it's kind of sad. At one point, my goodness, 15 years ago when my daughter was 10, we went trick-or-treating. And I was running Chocolate Alchemy, and we were trick-or-treating, and she got, I don't know, some Hershey's Kisses. And I was not in anything resembling a critique mode. I was wanting to enjoy her joy about the chocolate she was receiving. And I opened up a Hershey's Kiss and I tasted it. And I, much to my crushing disappointment, tasted over-roasted chocolate with hints of mold. And
Nice.
It kind of crushed my childhood. I was like, I want to enjoy this. I'm not trying to be an asshole nerd. And except that you can't go back once you've tasted good stuff. And
We should have added mold to the what's also included in chocolate, because who would know?
Right. So this can sometimes be a one-way path, and it's. I say that with chagrin. So now that I've told you I find Samuel Smith extract flavored and I don't like it, I'm sorry if you loved it and you don't love it after this, and I'm so sincere about that. All right. Next.
It is what it is. So I just wanted to throw out some. I was looking up what are some of the great beers that are known for their chocolate content. So Samuel Smith is one of the famous beers.
Yeah.
There's another beer that I was looking for called Young's. It's not on here. I took it off because it was really hard to find. John, you can get it up by you apparently, yes?
I can, and my goodness, there you go. That's a lovely Young's chocolate stout. Absolutely.
Yeah, Young's Double.
Young's double.
I put Mostraveza on here because I believe that Mostraveza, which is, do you know the beer Shokoveza, John?
I don't. No.
That's a stone brew that was invented by one of our own club members who's here today, who now has a brewery called Barrel and Stave, and they make a beer called Mostraveza that is damn near the exact same beer. Somehow he did it, and he brought an example for us to all try in Crowler. Chris Banker, who is this incredible home brewer. Chris, you have a microphone. I'm going to let you talk quickly about your beer.
Yeah. So this is Mostraveza. It's kind of taking the Shokoveza.
Get on screen there, baby.
Yeah, so the original Shokoveza, I won the 2014 Stone Homebrew Competition and brewed that with Stone. And the first batch was great, and it was still a great beer, but gradually kind of got diminished over the years. And when I started my own brewery, Barrel and Stave, one of my first beers for my opening lineup was Mostraveza, which is kind of brings it back to its original homebrew roots. So I scaled it back up from the homebrew, took away all the adulterations that Stone had added over the years, and really made what I wanted it to be. So anytime I've done comparisons, it's always blown the Shokoveza away out of the water. So this is it's about an 8% imperial milk stout with chocolate or cacao, cinnamon, nutmeg,
Cocoa.
Cocoa if you want.
It's okay.
Cocoa, coffee, cinnamon, nutmeg, vanilla, and piscia peppers. The coffee is from Mostra Coffee, a local roaster here. And after a few years of making it, Stone dropped Mostra as their coffee roaster, even though they were the original. So the name is kind of a prod at Stone and a nod to Mostra for making the coffee, and so I work with them.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. And thanks for bringing that on short notice. I really appreciate it.
That's awesome. That's really great.
This John, this beer is sort of evocative of Mexican chocolate, if you can think of those flavors, because he's got the piscia pepper in there and the cinnamon and the nutmeg. And
Yep.
it's not like a holiday brew. It's like a Mexican chocolate that is out of this world. So I'm sorry you can't be here to have it. But
I'm
if
a
you,
little envious. I am.
yeah, we'll get some to you.
So here, that's a good. We're going to splinter off the conversation here, and we'll try to keep it to target after this. But this is, I think, worth saying. So I work pretty closely with a local brewery to myself called Ale Song. And they have a flagship beer called Rhino Suit. It's a great big um, uh, imperial stout that they use lactose in, though they don't call it a milk stout. Um, and I've worked hand in hand with them for 8 years now, picking out different nibs for what they want to add to their beer. And I would encourage everybody to go listen to the long-winded, I think it's an hour-long video that I have on my site between me and one of the head brewers, Matt, where we talk about him adding nibs to his beer. And the big thing that comes out of that conversation is they often have taken 4 or 5 nibs with them from different origins, and they do a little micro, half-gallon batch proportional soak. They always do secondary soaks for 4 or 5 days, and during the video we taste them live. And at what you'll find out is that no one nib gives this characteristic chocolate flavor, but one is generally a favorite. There's this synergy of the given beer that the nib goes with. And I think that's really important. Because at the dose they use, and secondary and the short soak time, 4 to 7 days, it's not getting a lot of chocolate, but it still evokes chocolate. And it's the thing that's complex about all of this adding cocoa to beer. We can't predict it. They smell them, they taste the nibs, they do this in my warehouse, they take them away, they then soak them, and they taste the beer afterward and go, we like this one. And it's personal preference. And I can't predict it. Not everyone, a lot of people write to me and ask, what nib should I add to my beer to get chocolate? I'm like, God damn it. I want to sell you nibs and just give you an answer, and I can't, because I'm pedantic and I'm truthful, and I'm like, and it's the answer nobody wants. You have to experiment and find out. And I think that's something really true. Should you add half a pound of Vienna malt, or should you add a pound of toasted Vienna malt to your beer? No one can answer that until you try it and taste them. Nibs are no different.
That's good to hear. We, as a homebrew club, we're called Barley Engineers, and we have a lot of people here who are engineers. And we have an officer in the club who's responsible strictly for doing experiments. And we do things just like that, right? Where we'll take, he'll take a malt, and he's got a crew who makes all these different beers. We did, 10 beers a couple months ago. It was like 2 of this, and this one has a 1/4 ounce of that, and this one has an 1/8 of an ounce of that. Which one do you like better? And it was like that. So we do that kind of thing a lot because that's how you find, how do you get to the sweet spot?
It is. And so now that you've said that and put it in my head, you just said experiments. That's actually the name of that website. And I don't know if it's associated with you, but I love that website, Experiments.
I don't know that it is. I think we thought we made it up, so now I'm a little disappointed.
Well, no, don't be disappointed.
Brewlosophy is the one.
Yeah, great ideas come up to the top. So they are a great website.
Brewlosophy, I think, is the one that you're thinking about. That's where they do the experiments.
Very, very similar.
Yeah, that's the one. So anyway, I'll go back to this because we're starting to get short on time here.
Yeah, I know. We could talk about this for 3 hours.
Yeah, I know. And we'll talk more about it, John, offline. So a couple other chocolate beers that you guys have enjoyed. Andy's German chocolate cake beer that he made out of the Nick Corona beer. Was it out of Nick Corona, or you took it to their thing?
I want to call.
Is it on?
It's on now. Yeah, so I won a homebrew competition, and then Nick offered to do a collaboration with me and to brew it there. So we brewed as a collaboration the German chocolate cake stout. And if you guys are going to come out to the Bring Out Your Dead beer event, there is one can of that left, and that can's going to be open then. And so it doesn't mean that I'm not going to make it again as a home brewer, because I probably will. But the collaboration one that we did, that's the last can that I know of.
That was a kick-ass beer. I remember it. I loved it. And then Greg Orth, who's not here tonight, he did a German chocolate cake beer too that I swore was like drinking someone's melted German chocolate cake into a glass with carbonation. And then, of course, the Pure Project, that Velvet Zephyr. What'd you guys think of that one tonight? Yeah, so I think you guys will all probably agree that these guys are among the best in town. And I say that in town because Barrel and Stave is not in town anymore. God love you, Chris. So we can say that, and I don't feel any guilt whatsoever. So anyhow, so these are among them. There's a lot of other ones out there that you guys can try. And I encourage you to try them if you're sort of in that holiday spirit or feel like pouring something. Ken Schmidt had some beers that had like chocolate mint. If you remember, the pillow mint was like, oh my God, it was unbelievable. So with that, I'm just going to open it up to questions that you guys can pose to John. Don't pose them to me because you now know everything that I know about chocolate brewing, other than that I like to drink them. So John, if you have any questions for John, we'll throw the mics around for those of you that have questions.
So while they're doing that, I realized I do want to say one thing about something we did find on a second set of testing, if you don't mind.
No, go. I think I have one more beer, by the way, to share. I think the Founders. We didn't pour the Founders breakfast stout.
Oh, I've had Founders.
I'm not taking that home.
Founders keeper. You were trying to keep that.
I was trying to keep it a secret. So anyway, if you guys don't mind, thanks.
Here, I'm going to give this one thing.
Go, John.
So I want to actually leave people with something they can try, especially on the homebrew side. So something, this was a second round of testing after the 22 matrix test. And it was pulled from that. What we found was if you take cocoa nibs and mix them in a 1-to-1 ratio, so for instance, I'm giving it to you for a reason, 5 ounces of nibs and 5 ounces of Everclear. And let those soak for a week or two. Time doesn't really matter. They saturate, doesn't matter. And if you add that proportion very delicately, and I'll explain why in a moment, to your boil, the amount of chocolate flavor that comes through is delightful. The ethanol at that high percentage really extracts out the many of the components we need for chocolate. And then when it's added to the boil very delicately, and I say that, and I'm not actually joking, you actually have to add it slightly below the boil because ethanol boils at 78 centigrade. And if you're adding it to 100 centigrade, it flash boils, and it's dangerous. So you sort of have to add it, closer to 80 centigrade. It releases all of those compounds into the wort and blows off the ethanol, and you're left with this really nice chocolatey flavor. It's expensive because if you scale up to 5 gallons, you're talking, 25 ounces of Everclear. That's not insignificant. But this is the scientist talking, saying if you use a pint and a half of Everclear and 25 ounces of nibs, you're going to really get what you've put in, what the nibs have to offer. I want to throw that out there. if you're going to add 5 ounces of nibs to a 5-gallon batch, you're going to waste the cost of 5 ounces of nibs. So I'm not actually advocating people do it, but we did find it gave this beautiful chocolate flavor and chocolate aroma to the beers we made.
Is it important to wear a fireproof suit, John, when making that?
Okay, so I noted a tiny bit of sarcasm there. What I really actually want to say is add it before your boil. Add it so that it doesn't flash.
Deep secrets.
I did it when it flashed once and it boiled over and it caught fire. Don't do that shit. It's really fucking dangerous.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. So good point.
So it is the point you're getting at. And my point is, watch your temperature, add it before it comes to a boil, add it slowly, let the alcohol flash off, and then bring it to a boil, and you're golden.
Very cool.
And it's your last 2 minutes. So, turn off the burners, let it cool back down, add it little by little until you've added all of it, nibs included. The nibs have absorbed a ton of ethanol, and they'll release it when you put it into the water. They'll come to equilibrium. But be careful. And I'm not joking at that. The boil over is I had one boil over when I was doing it, and it's not fun. And this isn't geared toward large commercial. It's too expensive. But on a small scale, something you guys can share with each other, God, it's incredible. Yeah.
That's cool.
So there. I wanted to add that because I haven't published that yet.
I'd love that. So he told me he was going to add something big at the end. So that's it. John,
that's the end.
Any other questions for John?
I would
Mike?
love questions, please.
Here we go.
What about doing it? What about doing it like as a whirlpool hop? After the boil, you shut off your power, your gas, your heat, whatever. Let it cool down a little bit, and then put it in the cooling ward.
Okay, so I did do that. I can't keep answers simple. Way back in the 50s or 60s, there was an author called Robert Heinlein, and he coined a phrase called Tanstaffel. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch. And tossing your nibs into the whirlpool at the end is you not putting much effort in, and you won't get much result out. There's the answer. It sounds simple, and it is simple, and you'll get simplicity out of it. So I wouldn't recommend it. Either do a full boil, do it in your mash and your boil. Synergy seems to go a long way with nibs. Do some in your mash and your boil, but it's very proportional. 5 minutes in your whirlpool will get you 5% of what you want out of it.
Wow.
So there's the answer.
So you say put the nibs in the alcohol first, sort of make a slurry, and then slowly add it to your pre-boil.
I would, yes, correct. Or to your post-boil.
Post-boil, post-boil. As the boil's cooling, as it's cooling.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. That'll get you we found the best bang for your buck.
Great. John, I'm gonna say thank you a million on behalf of the club for joining us and imparting your great knowledge.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Standing ovation from the crowd.
I see it. I actually see it, and I'm gratified for it. I want to say to everybody, if you have any questions that I did this top level stuff. If you have any questions you want clarified, please feel free to write me. I answer every email, and I'll say it slowly. My email address is alchemist@chocolatealchemy.com.
I'll share that with everybody so y'all have it.
Yeah, please. I answer everything. You saw that, Jacques.
The guy's amazing. Yeah, he responded to my absurd request to do a presentation for us in 5 days in about 20 minutes.
Yep.
So he's a man of his word, and he's obviously a character. He's great. He's full of knowledge. And John, again, thanks a million.
Yep, you're welcome. And I feel like I haven't done justice to this. I feel like I haven't given you everything in my head, but it's impossible.
Yeah, no, I'll be in touch, John, so we can get the presentations finalized and cleaned up and put it on the website.
I love that so much. Thank you, Jacques, for inviting me.
Thank you, John.
I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it again. So, guys, we're drinking the Founders. Thanks a lot. Here's the deets on it. You guys have probably all had this before. I have, and I love this beer personally. So, anyway, we're going to wrap. Thank you, everybody.
I have to say, too, I really like Founders Breakfast Stout.
It's a great. Everything Founders does for me is like top of the bourbon barrel.
It's top tier. I love Founders so much.
Yeah, me too. So thanks, everybody.